When people think of haunted places, they usually imagine creaky old houses, or maybe an ancient graveyard. But one woman learned that some scary things can happen out in the woods too. This comes from a Reddit user. I spent many summers at a cabin in the woods with my family when I was younger. It was an old cabin, but it was always maintained and was very cozy. We were off the grid. No phone service and just a kerosene lamp for light. One summer night around 2 a.m., I was awoken to what sounded like screams in the forest. Big guttural screams. I remember thinking, wow, that must be some kind of animal. I went back to sleep after a few minutes and everything was fine. The next morning we had a hearty breakfast and went about our day swimming, hiking, and playing cards. That evening around 6 p.m., we decided to start a fire and make dinner. While my dad was getting the fire started, I walked over to the nearby outhouse. As I came back, I noticed something odd behind the outhouse. It was a humanoid-shaped shadow on the ground. At first I thought it was my dad, but then I realized he was still by the fire and hadn't moved. It was also far too thin and lanky to be any human I knew. I remember pointing it out to my mom and saying, "Hey, look, someone's shadow is stuck behind the outhouse." She said, "There's no one there, don't be stupid," and tried to steer me away from it. She didn't seem too concerned. So I shrugged and went to help my dad with the fire. That shadow stayed there all afternoon. Every time someone passed by the outhouse, it seemed to grow a little bigger and darker. My sister and I were warned not to go near it. Later in the evening, my mom told us she didn't want us to stay up too late because it was almost a full moon and she was worried a bear might come by. My dad joked and said, "Hey, if a bear shows up, just throw some marshmallows at it." Then my mom got serious and said, "No, really. I want you both in bed by 9. I know you're older now, but this is serious." A while back, a young girl was camping nearby with her family, and she wandered off and never came back. The police never found her, and her family had to pack up and leave. They said it wasn't safe for them to stay another night. My sister and I looked at each other and then broke into giggles. I don't know why it was so funny to us at the time, but my mom just gave us a look and sent us to our rooms. I went to bed but couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that shadow and wondering what it could be. Then I heard what sounded like screams in the forest again. I tried to ignore it, but then my bed started shaking. I felt something heavy get on top of my bed and I started screaming. My dad came in and yelled, "What's wrong?" I said, "I don't know. Something's on my bed. It's heavy and I'm scared." He told me to stop being stupid and go to sleep. He didn't seem scared at all. I don't know if that was to protect me or if he just didn't believe me. Then he left and the shaking stopped. I cried myself to sleep. In the morning after, of course, not sleeping at all, I told my mom what happened. She didn't seem surprised and said, "I told you there was a bear. We need to pack up and leave." My dad said that was ridiculous and told my mom to give it a rest. He even threatened to leave her if she tried to make him and our daughter leave, so she relented and we stayed another night. I was too afraid to sleep in my own bed, so I slept in my parents'. They didn't mind. I woke up in the middle of the night to what sounded like screams yet again. This time I didn't cry and scream myself. Instead, I just buried my face in my mom's shoulder. She held me until I fell back asleep. In the morning, my dad said we needed to leave right then and there. No one said a word during the car ride, and we have been back to that cabin ever since. Was it a bear? Maybe, but those weren't bear screams. It sounded like a person making the most horrible noise they could as they were dying. Also, my dad says there are no bears anywhere near where we were staying. We've been back to that area many times, including the summer after, and we've seen no sign of bears. Also, animals don't make perfect humanoid shadows and stand perfectly still for hours on end. That sounds creepy, like it was some sort of creature that was stalking the family. And I love how Op's dad just brushed it off as a bear. Like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Why would a bear do that, though? Bears are supposed to be scary. But this thing was described as a shadow, which implies it's naturally dark. And I can't imagine a bear being mistaken for a person from that distance. And it seems like it was definitely trying to hide behind the outhouse. But why? What was it hiding from? And why did it make those weird noises in the middle of the night? Whatever it was, I hope it's dead now. And if it isn't, I hope Op's dad changes his mind and moves away from that place. Because if it's still lurking around, I doubt OP is safe. And then there's this story from another Reddit user. I grew up on the edge of a small town. Behind my house, there was a dense wood line that ran along the entire back of our property. There was no backyard, just woods. My brother and I used to play in that wood line all the time. When we were around 8 years old, we came across a clearing, and in the middle of it was a weathered stump. We would jump and yell and make believe that it was a monster ready to eat us. It was fun. One day, probably about 2 weeks later, we were playing in the same wood line. We couldn't find the stump. It was nowhere to be seen. Disappointed, we turned around and headed home. We never saw that stump again, but we continued to play in the woods. One evening in late August, it was just about dusk and I had stayed out longer than usual. I was heading back to the house when I saw the stump, but this time it was different. The stump was huge and looming, and it seemed to suck the light from the sky around it. The forest was silent. Even the birds had gone silent. I remember taking a step back and tripping over a root. As I fell, I looked back at the stump, and it seemed to pulse slightly. I scrambled back to my feet and ran. I remember pounding on the back door, breathless and panicked. And the minute my mom opened the door, bursting with fear, the forest erupted with cicadas. I don't know if I imagined seeing the stump that day, or if it truly was there. I never told my mom. But I never went back into those woods alone, and I haven't lived there since. That's crazy. This story is terrifying because it's so vague. Usually when people describe supernatural experiences, they go into great detail about what they saw and what they felt. But this guy just said the stump seemed different. And that's enough to scare me. It sounds like this stump was some sort of gateway to hell or something. I do not know why else would it suck the light from the sky and burst into life the second this guy turned around. I mean, I'm pretty sure he just made that last part up. He's probably lying about the whole story, actually. I just wrote that comment before reading the update. It turns out he's totally telling the truth. See, a while ago, he edited his post with this. I forgot to mention, I have a large scar down my left leg from where I tripped and scraped myself on the root as I ran from the stump. I have never, ever forgotten it. That is insane. It sounds like that stump may have been some kind of portal or something, but I'm not really sure where this story is going. I guess it's just meant to be a creepy story. Does Opie realize how close he came to having his soul ripped out? If that thing was able to kill him with just a glance, imagine what it could have done if he actually stepped foot into its realm. But that's all I got. See you tomorrow.